My mic too. Okay.
There we go.
Now,
So my mic is on. There we go.
now, does that worry you?
No, that's perfect.
But how do I
We're
know?
getting ready, and
Yeah.
let me see if anyone hops on. But mine's the one that's kind of too far. Maybe I have to make this smaller.
You know what? I didn't get the sound to see if it's working on my computer for Facebook. So
Okay.
let's see.
You know what? I'm gonna have to actually get closer, Aaron.
Is this the frame?
Yeah. So yeah.
Really?
It's pretty close. It would be like this. Hey, we need a beer stein or something like
Well,
this.
that's-
We're pretty. Oops! So now we're showing my boobs. Here we go.
It's not that kind of party, Don.
It
It's
is
not
that kind
that
of
kind.
party.
All right.
I don't know if this is gonna work because my headphones are not long enough. So I may just go ahead and and I got cords coming out. Yeah. What I really need is just a. What I really need is this sucker.
All right. So the thing I'm worried about, let's see.
There we go. This works.
Okay. So
Now,
sound-
typically, you want to have earphones just so you don't get that feedback. That's just the.
Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah.
turn it off.
Okay.
So people don't have to hear me. I just need to make sure it's working.
Yeah.
All right.
How the heck? So I don't know how I'm gonna get this.
Yeah, how are we gonna get?
Yeah.
See, we're learning all kinds of fun stuff.
Well, this is part of the beauty of it. So if you want to scoot your guy closer.
Actually, I was gonna scoot it out to see if we could buy ourselves a little bit more room.
Okay. Oh, to frame it.
Yeah. And so you can get closer to me.
See, what I need is this. I basically just need this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and so there we go. No one's on.
So my
Periscope
first
yet.
question is, how forgiving are people when you're doing setup and stuff like this?
It's awesome. It's all part of the fun, right? It is part of the fun. So John Beers, I hear you on Facebook. Awesome, John.
Thanks, John.
I'm gonna go ahead and scooch this over so I can put my tripod.
At the end of the video, we'll show you the pretty funny setup. We've got softbox lighting.
Yeah.
We.
This is pretty. It's pretty. The only bad thing is now I'm gonna have to put my glasses on because I can't read that. So always.
Okay.
Like,
And you know what's funny is that it's not showing up on Facebook. So I've
comment?
got a laptop in front of me to try to take questions, but I'm only seeing questions on the live stream. So what we'll do is I can read it there.
Yeah, as long as we repeat the questions, which is helpful anyway, because I know a lot of times with live streaming, people can't see them afterwards. Sometimes
Right.
the comments don't show up, so sometimes having those repeating, so it sounds a little canned, but it's helpful later on.
Okay.
Right.
Well, we're about 1 minute in. So this is Tech and Tactic Tuesday at 12 noon for 30 minutes. And we might go a little bit over because I love Dawn Carter, and she is the mom. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you do, Dawn?
Yeah, sure. So, hey, welcome everyone. My name is Dawn Carter, and I'm here in the lovely Riverside area, as you can see from the picture behind. Aaron Norris is one of my Riverside buddies. But what I do is I call myself a corporate refugee. I have probably over 20 years of experience in corporate marketing, brand marketing. Currently, I am on my own. I do consulting, and I call it a digital strategy for folks. But my whole my whole ethos is basically taking all of these sometimes ridiculously complicated tools and just translating those into what makes either the cash register ring, what makes rabid fans. That's one of the things I just love, and especially in terms of social media, I mean, using the tools. So I view myself as like a digital, almost like a tour guide. Like, I don't want to say tour guide, maybe a Sherpa. I don't know. Sherpa carry stuff. I don't want to carry your stuff. I want to basically help, like a cultural concierge, because a lot of times, especially in the social media world, it's like a different culture. And so, helping people navigate it. Not every tool is necessary for every marketer. Yeah.
That's, and we're going to talk quite a bit about that today. We have so much to try to cram into 30 minutes. And this is all leading up. So last week we did John Burgess with Red Fusion Media, covering an enterprise software for PR professionals and marketing professionals in general that are being asked to get a lot more sophisticated when it comes to measuring success. Live streaming, and then next week on Tuesday, it's going to be Mobile Mary Barnett, who's going to show us behind the scenes of an SMS software. And then in a couple weeks from now, it's on a Wednesday, we're going to be in Temecula with all of us on panel. We've talked a bunch of marketing nerdiness, or we will in the next 3 weeks. So I'm really excited to dive into this today because it's become so popular. So Facebook has changed its algorithm to where if you're doing live feed on Facebook, you actually get a bump. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so my experience is really across a lot of different platforms, and it's kind of funny because Facebook was kind of late, I would say late to the game. It happened earlier this year when a Meerkat launched at South by Southwest, and everyone jumped on the Meerkat bandwagon.
Meerkat,
yeah, everything was about Meerkat, and then Periscope launched shortly after that. Well, all of these tools are really taking advantage of, I'll say, like the ubiquity of the bandwidth that people were starting to carry around more powerful phones. And so literally anybody could become a mobile broadcaster. And so Facebook, I'm sure it was all very calculated, launched Facebook Live recently. And really the whole purpose is because research shows that if video just gets more engagement. It just gets more engagement. It just does.
All right. Hey, guys. Two of my favorite. Thanks, Eileen. Good to have you.
Eileen. Hi, Eileen. I love seeing you.
Well, and I've been a video producer for a long time, so I think I just reached my 300th episode on YouTube, and I noticed a couple of years ago that when I was posting a link on Facebook wasn't, all of a sudden my YouTube visits went down, but my views on Facebook, my business page was going down, and I was like, what's going on? And then they launched the ability to natively upload video into Facebook, and then as soon as I started doing that, it bumped huge. Well, we all know that Facebook changed their algorithm again, and if you were one of those people who paid for a lot of Facebook followers, you're paying for it again, because it doesn't matter. They want you to pay for those eyeballs now. Everything is gamed. You're dealing with algorithms. So today we're going to talk about how to get smart about it too. So do you want to talk about the post method? Because in our pre-interview, we sort of talked about not everybody should be live streaming, and it really we need to talk about relationships and when it's appropriate. And I love the post method. You want to tell them what it is?
Yeah, you go ahead and tell them what it is and where we found it.
In 2005, Forrester Research, Charlene Lee, and Josh, I forget Josh's last name, but they wrote a book called Groundswell. In 2005, amazing book because it talks about less about the how-to and more about the why-to. And they talk about this POST methods, which stands for people, objectives, strategy, and technology. So people, of course, demographics, psychographics, and they introduce the idea of technographics. Where's your audience, and they might not be ready for specific channels based on demographics. Objective, what are you trying to accomplish? And the S, I thought, was one of the most brilliant pieces of that was its strategy. What's the relationship and how is it going to change with the user? Because social media, by its very nature, is a two-way street. It's not like we're putting out our press releases and, they can talk back to us and tell us how bad we suck, that they don't like us.
Side,
yeah, right. And then technology is the very last piece that you should be selecting. So that's why I really, really liked it.
Right. And so the whole idea, and why that's so important is that being able to look at, starting off with who is my audience. I think a lot of people just bypass that and you think, well, of course, my audience is everyone. It's like, well, actually not. It actually, if you're, like you just said, if your audience is everyone, it's no one. And so really being very clear on who is my audience. Am I first deciding, am I a B2B, business to business play? Am I a customer? Am I a brand that's trying to work with customers? Am I trying to reach influencers? Am I trying to reach the press? So there's some specific homework that you just got to do before you start. And so understanding who that audience is really, really important. I think one of the other things that we just came back down to is relationships. Because, if brand is that bucket, that container that we build as marketers or communications professionals in the minds of our customers, then I need to do everything I can to build that container well, to structure it well. And that brand, that bucket that is being built in their brains, it involves not just my visual identity, but it involves how they're treated. How quickly do I respond when they reach out to me on Twitter? Little things like customer service experiences, those all go into creating that brand experience for your customer.
I always tell people that you can help influence how they think about your brand, but the whole entire pipeline better be pretty tight.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So how do you know that you're ready for live streaming? It cracked me up because for those of you who joined us right off the bat, we're struggling to figure this all up. We're live streaming ×2. I like your angle better. So you're on Periscope.
I'm on Periscope. So I'm live scoping this right now, and then I'll go ahead and save. I'll just see how your content looks. I'll to see how mine looks.
Which one looks better?
Yeah, and then I'll post it later to.
We're not going to get stuck today on the how-to at all. So, but we are doing Periscope and Facebook Live. So let's talk quickly why you'd want to do Periscope versus Facebook.
Okay, perfect. Different audiences. So my Periscope following, I know who follows me on Periscope. The other thing is Periscope's just created for a quick and easy share. And I've been Periscoping for a while. while. And so there's an ability when you're within Periscope to be able to share quickly. It's just created for people to just post something out on Twitter. And so the other nice thing about Periscope is that, obviously I was using Periscope before Facebook Live was a thing.
You were a way early adopter.
Yeah, so to be able to, my whole goal of this is not just to connect with my tribe or connect with people or to bring value, but it's to also how easy is it for me to repurpose it later.
Right.
And so Periscope was tremendously simple to be able to do a broadcast and then pull it down and then upload it to YouTube later. So that's why I will typically do something in Periscope, and I usually don't do them at the same time.
Right, and just so, this keeps going back and forth, but Twitter re-upped their relationship with Google, I think late last year. So if you're posting on Twitter, it could likely end up in search engine results, which for those of us playing the SEO game is really important. How are the audiences different? Ooh, good question. Thank you.
Yes, and that's actually a really, really good question. So it really depends on how you, remember again, it's all about what you, the marketer, have been on, what you have built on purpose. And so my Twitter audience typically, historically, has all been my business-to-business contacts. It's been my stream, my tweet stream, my updates will always be, you're going to attract people based on what your content is. And so my audience on Twitter has always been more of the marketers, people that are customer experience, branding, those types of folks, social media folk. And so my audience over on Periscope, I've invited them over to Periscope. Now, because Periscope is now native into Twitter, when people's Twitter streams see something by Descartes, come on up, they'll actually see, oh, there's a little video that Don's doing. So that's where it makes it easy and convenient. So typically Facebook, again, I never thought of Facebook as a live streaming platform. Facebook is where I kept in touch with my friends and family and posted pictures of my vacation in France. I mean, that's what it was.
Right. And that, exactly.
So it's starting to change now.
And Twitter for me has been very different because I've been using it as like a news medium because I run a YouTube channel where every Friday I produce videos. So there, I'm only following probably 250 people and I have 2,500 followers. So I'm not making it a relationship building site for me. I'm doing that on Facebook for me personally. Right. So
it really depends on how you use it. I've been on Twitter since 2008, and so typically I've used Twitter to be that channel by which it's like that long connection with people is maintained. So if I meet you at a conference, we have some really great conversations, I want to be able to send you a link to something or you want to send me something, it's always been my home base.
Right.
So so it depends on how you use it.
And Facebook for me, I created a special business only one where I take customer service emails and all that kind of stuff, which has been really good for me because I was an early adopter on Facebook.
Right.
And because I had a background in the arts, my audiences didn't mix. So I completely separated them. And I'm a little bit smart on Facebook. Don't tell people you're gone for 2 weeks. Please rob my house. I talk about that a lot. You really have to think about that, though. If you're live streaming and you say stuff like that, it can be dangerous. So, as I say, if it can happen to Brittany, it can happen to you.
Really good question. Really good question, though.
Does Facebook or Periscope have life after the live broadcast? How does that compare with YouTube? Good question, John.
Excellent question. Excellent. It's almost as if we fed you that question, which we did not.
We didn't.
Nope. But one of the topics that Aaron asked me to talk about is repurposing the content, and I think that is really, whether it's you're producing the content on Facebook or Periscope, or I use Snapchat a lot to produce the content in the moment. The real whole purpose of that, yes, is to be able to interact with people. Let me go ahead and turn that off. The real purpose of that is to interact with people in real time, but the real value is that evergreen aspect of it. And so whether it's produced here on Facebook or whether it's done in another medium, the real goal is to be able to post it to YouTube, because that's where you get the Google juice.
And we were talking about that strategy. So my strategy was very specific when I started YouTubing. I was trying to get people used to seeing my face and not just my father's, whose all our brand equity was really locked up in him. So as people needed to start seeing me more as I became more involved as vice president of our company, it was a strategy based on brand equity alone. So that you really have to get very strategic on why you're doing things.
Right.
So YouTube, I publish directly into Facebook now. And I create very timely content. So we talked about two different kinds of content. So when I do my Friday videos, it's covering the biggest news in real estate only on through the week. So it's a snapshot and it's gone. But then I create evergreen content very differently and I upload it to YouTube, trying to get in the way of search engine optimization. So when somebody types in, what is this? So I'm trying to think as a customer and get in the way of that question and answer it effectively. And it's evergreen, so I can constantly retweet it out. So is that what you do? Do you create both?
Yeah. I would say actually the things that I create or that I create for my clients is typically going to be more on the evergreen, depending depends on the client.
Okay.
So, for instance, I'm doing some work with the, I hope it's okay to mention, the Craft Brewers Guild here in the Inland Empire. Woo, drink local. Anyway, it's nothing specific, but a lot of the strategic goal of theirs is an education play. It's
right.
Why is it important to drink local? Why is supporting our local, artisans important? So that is going to be kind of evergreen. But if I'm doing profiles of individual breweries, that's going to be kind of more, this is something this is what they're doing, this is why they're cool now, that kind of stuff.
Got it, okay.
So that's kind of a combination.
So that's, timely versus more evergreen, so that was important to cover. And
yes.
How do you know that you're ready to even start live streaming? Do you have a formula?
Well, I honestly, one of the hardest things about live streaming is just hitting start. Let me just say, for a lot of people, and I will absolutely throw this in there, a lot of it is a personality thing, because there are a lot of people that are excellent at what they do, but they're not an on-camera type, which, obviously, you're the shy, retiring flower that you are, Aaron.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so there are people that don't have that skill set, and it's not it doesn't depreciate them or the value they bring at all, but it's just a different skill set. So what I say is that there are people that need to do it, but that doesn't necessarily have to be their face.
Right.
Find someone on your team that can do it. Elicit. One of the strategies I have for some of my, I'll say, shyer, clients is elicit one of your most vocal advocates. Who is somebody
right.
that loves your product and loves talking about it. Let them do it for you.
Right. That's
so
smart.
so those are the kinds of things. So not everybody should be doing video. I mean, obviously there's something,
right.
because remember, if you zoom back and go, is this going to help build that container of brand experience for my customer? So, great example. If I'm going to be on Twitter, there's an expectation that you will be responded to, a retweet or a mention, you'll be responded to within 24 hours. That's just like a right. cultural norm. Right. And if it doesn't, means that you're either, it's like, ooh, they don't know what they're doing. I mean, whatever. You don't want to dive into things if you're not committed to follow through. And that doesn't mean it has to take up your whole day. One of the biggest objections I hear to social media is that it's a time suck. Well, it absolutely can be. And that's where you pull out, you strategize against it being a time suck.
Right.
You pull out the little egg timer. I have a little owl egg timer that like set for 15 minutes and answer my retweets in the morning. Answer them, just so that you've touched base once.
Well, and the play with any social media video platform too is like when you post, you have to be ready to engage, because the more engagement that happens early on, the higher you're going to rank because of all these algorithms. If Facebook, Google, YouTube, whatever, sees that there's a lot of activity going on, the better, and the customer might come back and edit it. So I always produce on Friday. My customers know I always produce on Friday. It's going to go up to the Apple iTunes. I produce in all these different channels.
Smart. So smart.
Anyway. I think we have some other questions. So is Periscope more relationship or business oriented, or just how do you choose the medium?
Great.
That is a good question,
that is
Victoria.
Such a good question. Okay, so my philosophy is that it's all relationships. It can absolutely be a business, but people buy from people they trust. Correct. Bottom line. And so if someone is representing your brand in a social experience on a platform, that's a relationship that person has with your brand. And so it really, it always comes down to relationship. Okay. So, am I treating this person how I want to be treated? Am I you really have to look at it as a relational play. I hate to say that because you're like, I can only have so many relationships,
I think live streaming is scary too, because there's a sense that you have to be perfect. So we're not going to edit this video after where when John and I we did it via GoToMeeting, and I dropped the meeting several times because the internet connection was bad.
Oh yeah.
So technically I could have cut that out, which would have made me look more awesome. I didn't, but there's all that pressure that you have to be perfect.
So honestly, I mean, to me, that's one of the things. There is actually a freedom when you understand that there's a value nowadays of authenticity that actually makes you more endearing. I mean, think about this. Is it easier to have a relationship with someone who's perfect and perfectly coiffed and, whatever, or are you more accessible? I mean, go read Brene Brown's, book on Daring Greatly. I mean, the whole idea of, can I as a brand become approachable? That doesn't mean not being professional. Oh no, okay. That doesn't mean not delivering well, but we're talking about communicating here. We're talking about being able to say, can I do it well, but can I not take myself so seriously? You know, I mean,
Right.
especially with marketing, you know, millennials, and that's a huge value is authenticity, and to be able to do that. So, my advice for people that are like, there's no way I want to do it is, you know, start small. The way I got into it, I joined a little group called Stream in 15, put out by Amy Schmittauer. She's a big YouTuber, but literally it was like, hey, every day can I post something little? Just practice being in front of
Right.
the camera. Just practice.
My background's in the arts too, and I got to tell you, I don't like watching my videos afterwards. I'm very judgmental of myself, and so maybe it's good to get a friend and be like, do I have a radio face? Am I okay at this? But there's so many different ways to do it.
Right.
And if you're creating these videos, there's a lot of different outlets for it. So
Right.
you've got YouTube, Periscope, you've got Facebook you can upload to live. What was the other one that I was thinking? Oh, yeah, Apple. So with one video, you can be in a lot of major assets. And Amazon, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, launched their own video service. So
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if it's going to be a real play for a competitor for YouTube, but it has to be closed caption. So it's going to be more money and more involved.
Right.
But, you know, one asset that you're producing could be in a lot of major brands.
Yeah, and again, if you think of it in terms of what am I trying to accomplish? Am I trying to solidify a relationship I have with existing customers, or am I trying to just introduce who I am to people that have never heard of me? I mean, very, very different, you know, aspects. So, for instance, if I want to give my existing customers some kind of behind-the-scenes kind of little snippet, let me give you a great example. There's a local brewery here in Riverside that was going to go pick oranges from UCR, like from the citrus collection, and use their oranges in their recipe, which
That's
I thought,
cool.
that's pretty cool. Like, exactly. I'm like, this is cool. And he's like, why would anybody care about that? I go, no, there's a story.
Right.
There's a story there. So he was kind enough, Ryan Wicks was kind enough to let me like follow him and, you know, Snapchat the story and then be able to post that. But later on, what it does is it makes a connection for people that didn't realize, oh, they use our local stuff. Ooh, that's cool. That's important to me too. Oh, so again, that's a deposit into that container of that brand for building that. And for them, they're looking at it going, who cares about us picking oranges, our brewer and a bunch of our guys? And I think it's that being able to come and look at what we do within our business with visitors' eyes. I call it like go as a tourist. Be a tourist and assume you know nothing about what that your business does. I think so many times we are so close to it, we think, well, that's stupid. People wouldn't care about that. That's
Right.
dumb. Yeah. But honestly, I just came back from a trip over, you know, in France, and it was like everything was magical because everything was new.
Right.
And the thing is, to them, they're like, I'm just like carrying my baguettes, you know, like whatever. So like,
It's not new to them, but
it's
okay.
not new to them. And so I think part of the problem is we become so familiar with what we do that we forget. And even people that already know and love our product or our brand, we're just trying to reconnect.
Uh-oh. It looks like we're still live streaming. Okay.
Okay.
I got a bad connection. We got cut off. That was stressful.
It was the baguette comment.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I don't know.
They're editing you? Okay. Love the idea of publishing the backstory. Yeah. So what you were basically coming down to is value. Like, why would somebody want to watch?
Yes.
So when I started my YouTube channel, I was specifically thinking, what value can I bring that my customer would be like, this is really cool and saves me time?
Yep.
And I was trying to position myself as more of a brand authority. So it was serving a lot of purposes, but I definitely had a very specific goal.
Yes.
Not just search engine optimization
Right.
tweaking. Okay.
Yeah.
White hat strategies, people. White hat strategies.
So so the whole I think the real important thing about, you know, having those kinds of experiences is being able to give them another touch point. You're personalizing your brand. One of the things I did on my trip is I go to like museums or exhibits that kind of explain something, and I'm fascinated with experiential storytelling. Because that's literally what walking through the exhibits is. It's like, I look at that as a marketer and go, how can I translate what they're doing here at this exhibit into social media? I mean, like, how can I give people, you know, a little bit of history or a little bit of a personal story or a little bit of a glimpse? And that's what draws people
Okay.
in. And even to the most, what you would say, mundane industry, people find a lot of those things fascinating.
If you guys watching live, if you have any questions about maybe some ideas of some companies that you want ideas on, I'd love to bat it around with you.
Absolutely.
If we get questions. So we are taking questions live while we're here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's talk about measuring success and impact, because John last week was a little bit, John, you know you were a little bit hardcore on social media,
I love
saying
it.
he has a lot of B2B customers though,
Uh-huh.
where social media isn't always appropriate. So if he's got a manufacturer and you're like, yeah, live streaming, like, they might be there for, like what you said on Facebook, for friends and family. They might not want to be interrupted with videos on, manufacturing.
Or cloud computing or something like that.
People will judge them if they like one of your videos on manufacturing. But to me, it seems easier for a customer-facing value approach. B2B, I would have a little bit of a harder time spinning that for some social media. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so John, great question. So I appreciate the just the honesty, and I love that kind of point-counterpoint aspect, because I hear this every day, in talking to folks. So number one, what I would do is I would talk to folks who are killing it in the B2B space using live stream. People like Brian Fanzo, iSocialFans on Twitter. He and Daniel Newman, they're working with huge brands that are B2B plays. They're like cloud computing. They've got weekly shows either on Blab or on Facebook Live. I mean, they're doing things, they're live casting from those B2B organizations' events. And there's a whole world of things you can do with B2B event marketing using live streaming,
Right.
and it's like literally things like interviewing your best customers, repurposing that content later in an email, or to people like, hey, sorry you couldn't make our cool user conference, but here you might want to see how people are using our cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. My most recent experience was from a software company that was a total B2B play, and really a lot of the customers and the clients that we had is, how can I bring value? It just goes back to what you were saying. How do I bring value to my tribe? And if the tribe is seeking, because whether they're customer facing or business facing, if you understand your customers and they want, I want access to the latest info. That's it. How do I deliver that then? Can that be delivered via live stream? Sure, or not. If I want other relationships, like say you're B2B and you want to connect up other people that are within your industry, non-competes or people that you can kind of bounce ideas off of, hosting, things like hosting a Twitter chat. You literally are hosting a water cooler conversation once a week where people get together and meet and talk. So things like that are total B2B plays.
Now, slight sidebar, because we keep talking about scheduling. I always stick to a strict schedule. How important is it to people to get, if you decide to go down the live stream chat or just video in general, I always recommend you creating a schedule and being consistent, because the fans that you're building come to expect it. How important is scheduling for you?
Absolutely important. Absolutely. I would say it's a mixture. So you can let people know if you are going to say, I am going to commit, and it is a commitment. It is to basically say, you do this. I am going to produce content every Friday. One of the things I learned from Amy is that she said, she's a YouTuber. She goes, I make a contract with my viewers.
Oh.
She goes, I am making a contract with them that I will show up. And so when I don't, they're disappointed. And it's like, and we know what that does for brand equity.
Right.
So you want to basically, and if you can't, that doesn't mean you're like, you have a death in the family. You can't do it, but you just manage expectations.
Scott is joining us all the way from Boston. Hey, Scott.
Scott, welcome. Whoa.
He's on vacation in Boston. Awesome. I won't say your last name so people don't rob you.
Yeah.
Things you have to think about, people.
Awesome.
So measuring success for you.
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because the whole idea behind Tech and Tactics is we're getting down into more of the measurement-focused stuff. So how do you like to measure success of live stream?
Okay, so success of live stream, couple things. At the very, very beginning when I was talking about your audience, one of the first steps after knowing who your audience is defining your objectives. So if I'm going in with a brand new client, you're in a different situation. You're an established brand, a mature brand. If I'm going in with someone who has zero social presence, then coming up with some kind of benchmarks and saying, hey, by this date, because if it doesn't have a date and a number attached, then it's just a little conversation, by this date, I want to have, and don't be afraid to say, and to conservatively, I think there's a tendency for us to go, I'm so enthusiastic, I think it's going to do this. Take whatever this is and cut it in half and just say, so then you can always over deliver and just say, conservatively, I think by this time, by the end, I always do things in quarter, by the end of Q4, I want to have this many followers. So follower count, if you're just starting out, you got to have something, so I want to grow our base to over 100 people. Okay, even something as ridiculously simple as that is something you can measure.
Okay.
Now, in terms of like reaching the live video. One of the tools that I was using, especially in Periscope, is a tool called Full Scope TV. And so Full Scope was able to give me the number of times people would jump on to my views, the number of retweets, shares that they would do. And so again, remember, but it all comes down to relationships. These are giving me intel on who are my top engaged viewers.
Right.
And so as a marketer, as a person who values those relationships, they've given me, I always say, you've given me the biggest gift you can, which is your attention, your time. So how do I identify those people that have given me their time and attention, and something as simple as thanking them?
Okay.
Thanks for showing up every week. Thanks for whatever. And so if part of that measurement is how many, conversations have I had, interactions with those significant people, they could be bloggers, they could be, whatever. I mean, but as long as they are forwarding whatever my marketing objectives are, those are valid measurement things. Have I established 2 new news outlet contacts this week?
Well, and something else that we talked about a little bit is the concept of funnel marketing. Where does this fit in your funnel? You've got the awareness and then purchase, and then after that, sort of brand advocacy. From the customer's perspective, can you build in evergreen calls to action inside your videos? So we could say for the Public Relations Society of the Inland Empire, we don't want you to miss a luncheon. Go to prsaie.org and sign up to receive updates. Or maybe you've got a free ebook that you want people to download that you just got to make sure that it's evergreen so it doesn't go out of date.
Well, yeah, so, and a great, I love how you put that point. One of the things you can do with your content is you can shoot it evergreen and then add the timely things later in YouTube. So you can add calls to action, you can add those kinds of things as kind of the wrapper. So you've created the thing and then put the timely things on as almost like stickers, on the end, and say, hey, don't ever miss an episode.
Right.
That kind of thing.
That's
so,
very, very
that's
true.
what YouTubers do. I mean, I watched Key and Peele videos with my sons last night, and that's what's okay to say. But after you watch their amazing content and you're laughing, whatever, then they'll say, hey, did you know we're on TV? So they're doing a call to action. They're saying, we know you watch this on YouTube, but did you know we also have a TV show, blah, blah, blah. It's on Thursday nights.
I actually watch more YouTube than I watch TV now.
Most people do.
Yeah.
Right?
Anyway,
I'm just saying you got to learn from those YouTubers. They've been doing this a lot longer.
Would doing a Periscope from an open house be a good idea? So one of our real estate folks, hi Charlotte, just to start like a teaser. Okay, so you know what? I don't think that's a bad idea.
And people are doing it.
The only thing I might do, depending on how long you're there, like what if you want to give them a little bit more of a head start? Like, so maybe in the morning you're having a cup of coffee and you're like, hey, I'm about to go to the open house and I'm going to show you around at 12 o'clock. And you can walk the house and tell people that you'd love to see them. But, there's lots of different ways.
Especially since now with all the 360 cameras and things that are coming out, can you imagine in a industry where visual, and being able to actually sense the space is important. That would just be, and and I'll go ahead and tweet out later on, there's a gal in Las Vegas that's doing phenomenal periscopes from using for real estate on the customer side.
The only thing you really have to be aware of is if your internet connection is going to be there.
Correct.
So most houses won't have wireless, and if you get a weak cell reception and you don't have wireless, it's just going to screw up. So I would say that.
If this is something you're serious about doing, then I would make the investment in one of those hotspot things that you can carry around, and it costs a certain amount of money, but it basically makes your you basically get to have a wireless hotspot wherever you are. So I would. That's expensive, but if that's you have to always look at your expenses in terms of what are you getting, So this is landing me. All I need is 2 customers to pay for that sucker, Then it might be a wise investment.
Well, I'm trying to think about this from a Facebook perspective too. You could schedule a walkthrough on as an event, so a digital walkthrough. So you're actually walking through and they're taking questions live. So maybe they don't join you live, but you could do a walkthrough digitally and answer questions.
And I think, to me, and the real beauty about live streaming is that it's co-producing content with your audience. Yeah. That's what we're doing, guys. You're asking the questions and we're answering. So all of a sudden, the relevancy level of the content has just gone up because you are asking the questions. So if you're able to show someone a video and they're saying, but I really want to see the kitchen, you're able to co-produce. You're literally creating that video in response to something that's someone who's watching you. And that's why it's so powerful.
Jonathan Yost brings up, something very scary. Like, is live streaming appropriate for times of emergency?
What does that? What do you mean? Like,
So if there was a lot of people in our chapter have jobs where they're they're a PIO position.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
During an unexpected emergency, a fire, a shooting.
Correct. I think it really depends on the agency. It really depends on the agency that you're working for and understanding what their protocol is, because there may be reasons why they don't want every Tom, Dick, every person to be broadcasting things. But the reality of the age we live in is that every bystander is going to be broadcasting that. So why don't I want my voice in there too?
I would agree. When was it that San Diego had the power outage and their Twitter blew up to where, because all the power was out, so nobody could call them, and so they were getting the message out via Twitter. What a great way to use live streaming to be able to answer questions directly from customers would be huge.
That's right.
And you can have a little bit more control as far as your environment. I think we've all seen those horrible, live news feeds where somebody runs in the back, undressed or something. So I think you have a little bit more control out of that. Might be a little less scary too for whoever you're interviewing. Yeah,
we want to think about if part of my role as a communications professional is to frame the reality of what people are seeing, not in a bad, horrible way, but in a accurate way, to make sure that they're getting the facts, because that's the other flip side of citizen journalism, is that you can get nonsense out there that you just don't want. So if my job is to combat the nonsense, I got to get that truth out there too.
Correct. And Eileen brings up a good point. You have to be careful because of legal things. So of course, check with legal. Eileen.
Darn Eileen.
What are the liabilities in terms of live streaming? Are there concerns about legal ramifications, especially with those who are not trained media speakers? That's from Victoria.
Excellent question. And that's something that digital agencies wrestle with all the time. I mean, you've got things like copyright. One of the most frequently asked questions I get, especially with live streaming, is that what if do you need model releases for anyone that shows up in the background of your like the moneymaker? Do you need releases, for people that show up in your thing? And so those are questions. I'm not going to be a big legal expert. I would say talk to legal counsel, but get counsel from someone that knows what the heck they're talking about. So I think PRSA did a luncheon a while ago with a fabulous speaker, and his name is escaping me. We'll post it later. But he had a lot of experience in that. Like, there are things that my husband happens to be an attorney by training, so he'll say, well, right to be, right to see. If you're out in public and there's a right that you can see something, it's visual there. There's not an expectation of privacy, that kind of thing. But especially when you're dealing with live streams with kids or things like that. I personally will not live stream anything of even cute videos of a friend's kids without asking the parents' permission first. And then if I do it, I will post it. I'll just send it to that parent. It's like, hey, this was cute.
That's a good point. And the only bad experience I've had is that I didn't even think about this. We were live streaming an event on YouTube when they first started live streaming. We were so excited, we got shut down because our AV guy was piping in live music in the background. YouTube recognized that it was copyrighted material and completely shut down. I did
that with the Halloween house. I'm like, oh, Riverside is so awesome. They got this amazing Halloween house, but they were doing some thriller. They were doing some music that was copyrighted, and so it got flagged. And all you literally do is just take it down. It's just, you're fine. But
it's bad to set up your audience though for live streaming, and then you're like, sorry, I got cut off. It was rough. That was a rough day. I had a plan B.
Always have a plan B.
All right, we got a few more questions, and I know we're ending our time. We're about 5 minutes over. We'll take a few more questions. Ken Meinsinger was the attorney who spoke at Periscope Inland Empire.
He was so good. Yeah. So I would definitely talk with people that are within that area. I mean, really, when it comes down, you're always going to have that tension between legal and I came out of the marketing world, and you've got stuff that, well, of course we need to say this, and like, no, I don't. So you're going to always have that. It doesn't matter if it's live streaming or it could be written. You're always going to have to be I would say err on the side of caution, but honestly, you'd have to look at the reality. The reality is that the legal system has not kept up with the technology. So you've got laws that do not even cover the reality of what we have now.
Yeah, it's true.
So
I always err on the side of white hat strategies, things that you think are going to be evergreen for a long time, because I produce so much content. If somebody's like, oh, a link is broken, I almost laugh out loud because I'm creating links on a daily basis on my blog. Well, we are out of time. I don't think we have equipment. Yes, I'm going to do a tour at the very end of the video of how we did it. But I bought I think these microphones were $30. I have a splitter going into my iPhone. So this is taping on the iPhone. And we have clip-on microphones.
Yep, and you can get so my splitter is a little less low budge, but it's it literally something I can plug into my iPhone, and it's got two mics, lav mics, and what's really nice about that, especially if you're going to be doing event interviews or interviews with people, because that is that's fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
You know, what do you love in here? I mean, I did something at a conference where I literally went and looked at the booths to see who was giving away the coolest swag. You know, let's just see, because that was more compelling than I am here and this is the event. You know, like people wanted to see, oh, that's cool, that's a squishy ball. Yeah, I mean, like that's the ridiculous. I mean, that's the world.
That's where we live. So this is just an iPhone. Be careful because on it sucks up juice. I did a live stream with a full Mophie. The Mophie was the battery pack that doubled the battery. It died in 45 minutes live streaming on Facebook. So Dawn luckily brought her little handy dandy charger for me today because my Mophie wouldn't fit on with my splitter plugged in. I know, something random you have to think about.
Little things. And then the other thing too, just to caution, if you are going to be live streaming, always use headphones because the experience on the other side, and people think, ooh, why should I use mics if I'm going to be live streaming? People will forgive fuzzy, a little bit of a fuzzy video, bad quality audio, not so much. They will check out. So what you always want to do, and the reason why, even like these are just plain old, I got these at Sam's Club, I mean they're Bose headphones, but it's got the mic. So when you're broadcasting, you get better quality sound for people, and you're not getting any feedback. So even when I'm doing it from desktop, I always use headphones because you don't want the feedback of what we're hearing, and if people are interacting.
By the way, I didn't know I couldn't end up live streaming from like a webcam, so the live streaming icon would not show up on my desktop for some reason. I had to go through the iPhone app. That was something I wasn't expecting today.
Yeah. So the little things like that. So really, if you want to live stream, and really if you think about it, it's you want to share the experiences when you're out and about.
Right.
And that's kind of the beauty. So.
And we're both pretty experienced in video, so I was laughing because at the very beginning of this video, we were struggling like, oh gosh, here's the frame, and we had the lighting and where we wanted to do this, but our computers are. I'll show you in just a second. I guess I can right now. Let me grab this real quick. All right, so So my computer is right here. She's got a laptop right there. I've got soft boxes on either side of us. We're in a well-lit room, and there's a floodlight behind her, lighting the picture in the back.
And I have a mic stand holding my iPhone because I'm ghetto like that. So anyway, that's just.
and I bought this little very cheap holder that sits on a tripod to where I can angle it wherever I want. So there you go.
Yeah, until we have the technology where they're embedded in our own foreheads or headbands or whatever.
Right.
This is what we have to do.
So great information on equipment. Okay, good. Is a cell phone appropriate? I think cell phone, you've got it on you. And these cell phones now these cameras are nice cameras. They're not like the old juice boxes that... So yeah, I don't think you need to buy anything special. I think sound, like she said, is most important. Remember when you're live streaming that it really depends on your internet connection, so that's something else you have to think about. I've seen live stream where it's pretty slow and it gets real grainy. So I had a great experience with the blue Mikey microphones. It plugs into your iPhone. I've seen those too. Those are pretty nice. So, okay. Any other final ideas or comments about?
No, only encouragement I would give people is, don't feel like you're a loser if you don't do it.
Okay.
Because you have permission, you know your audience better than anyone.
Right.
And the whole goal is, can I add value or make that connection with my customers? And can it bring value? But honestly, really, the whole point is to connect with them and also equip them to tell your story better. So if using live video can help do that, then I would say go for it. Yeah, have at it and give yourself grace. Reach out. There are most of the stuff I've learned, it's been through free resources. That's why I love Twitter. There are people that'll do.
Speaking of, how do they follow you? Because she produces these great resources on how to live stream better.
Yeah.
And what's your show? You don't have your card.
I don't. I usually have a card that I show, but it's called, if you just go onto YouTube and search for hashtag Twitterscope.
Okay.
So it's typically focused on using Twitter to connect better with your tribe and to create rabid fans and all that stuff. But I do go into repurposing content. I go into a lot of those things. But I'm at Decart on the socials, DECART on the socials. And
on the socials?
Yeah. And then on Snapchat, I'm at Decart, ATDECART, because Decart was taken.
Okay, there you go. All right. Well, and next week we are going to be back with the PRSA Inland Empire for Tech and Tactics Tuesday at 12 noon for 30, the 5 Ts. If you wanted to tweet this out, just use 5TS as your hashtag.
Nice.
Next week we'll be here with Mary Barnett talking about SMS and MMS. She'll show us behind the scenes of the platform that she's created, and I've used it, and it's pretty cool.
Nice.
How do you get people from print to digital in your marketing funnels? And then finally, on the Wednesday the following week, I'm trying to figure out, I think it's July 20th.
Yeah, the 20th.
We're going to be at Luke's on Front in Temecula. First time we're going to do an event in Temecula, and we'll have all the panelists there, and we're going to be talking about forecasts. I'll be creating questions based on these 3 really awesome interviews. This is clearly more advanced, so these are for the nerds only, but I think you'll learn a lot. So prsaie.org. Thank you for your time.
Aaron, this has been fun. This
I
has
love
been
it.
totally fun. And thank you guys for giving us your attention. Biggest gift you can give is your attention and your time. So
Yes. Thanks, guys. All right, we'll see you next week at Tuesday at noon.
awesome.
All right, bye.